So my next guest is a marketer, and she's really awesome. She's giant gamer, giant nerd, but also like nerd in the marketing and sales world too. So it was like really cool to be able to talk to somebody about this. And I asked kind of like stepped down question or dumbed down questions because she was definitely talking at a little higher level. She was throwing out a couple terms that maybe not everybody knows. I just want to make sure everyone understands. But I really love this conversation. I hope you guys do too. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Gamerpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Carlton. Today, I have a very special guest with us. I have Jesenia Vargas with Fat Merchants. Hey there, Jesenia.
Hi, how are you? How are you today?
Fantastic. Did I give your company name properly there?
Yep, you did perfectly fine.
Okay, wonderful.
Yep.
Okay, so Jesenia, why don't we tell me a little bit about yourself?
So I am a content marketing specialist. Like you said, I got Fat Merchants. I help them with a lot of the strategic portions when it comes to the marketing, so social media management, sort of strategy when it comes to the content development side, as well as website content, working with the product teams. I currently live in Orlando. I don't know if you can hear in the background. It's actually about to storm. We got some rain going on. You know, good old Florida. We like to have on and off rain. And I'm the mother of two. So I have two young ones, a boy and a girl. So I have little mini-me's roaming around half the time. So
how on earth is your house so clean then?
I try very hard. It's not easy with the kids, but
you can't see it, but all her toys are just spread out around me down here.
Oh yeah, I did it away. I put it like on the other side so you can't see it in the screen. Purposefully hidden.
Fantastic. Okay, so Jesenia, I start every podcast with a single question. I ask everybody this question, so I'm going to ask you as well. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, how weird are you?
Well, I would have to say I'm around a 6 or 7. So a little bit over average, but a little, not too crazy, weird.
Why do you say that?
Well, I mean, I do enjoy watching my anime. So I am a very avid anime watcher. So anything from fairy tale to, you can list them all. So I binge watch on Crunchyroll. And obviously, being a gamerpreneur, I love my video games. So I tend to spend a couple of hours a day, maybe 1 or 2, playing games online. So
fantastic. So what's your gaming background? What's your cred?
My cred. So I used to play games, obviously, as kids. We always grow up with games. So right now, I pretty much play on PC. So I play MMORPGs online. And also, I do enjoy console games on occasion. So I used to play Call of Duty, Gears of War. Skyrim is one I just recently repicked back up the other day because, you can't go wrong with Skyrim.
9 years old. What? Have you not beat it yet?
No. Do you ever beat that game?
I've never, not once.
Yeah, and again, like I'm guilty of playing Pokemon Go as well. So I do play that on occasion. So
beautiful. So like, what got you into it in the first place? That you just saw an ad one day and told your parents I need a Nintendo?
No, actually, what's interesting is I've always wanted to play as a kid. I think my mom would tell me that my cousin, who was older than me, would come over to our house and have a Super Nintendo. So he would bring it over and he would play with me all the time. And from that point on, I think she said I was like little, like maybe the age of my kids were like 2 or 3. And ever since then, I just was hooked on the video games to the point where they bought me a Super Nintendo. My siblings would try to steal it, obviously. And, we were forced to share. But ever since then, I have always had a passion for playing games. I just enjoy the activity of it, the stories and all those little aspects from the games.
Wonderful. Now, were your parents the same? You had to share, but if you purchased it with your own money, did you still have to share?
No. Yes, actually, yes, because we didn't really purchase anything. I bought my first console on my own freshman year of college, and it was an Xbox. So it was like the first console I bought. My friends went to go with me to get it, and they gave me the golden rules of when you buy a new console, you always have to buy 2 games. That was the rule. Because that way, if you got bored with one game, you had another game to make up for it.
Absolutely.
So,
Okay, so what are you playing at the moment? You said MMORPGs, but which one specifically?
Yep. Right now, I am playing a Korean MMORPG called Arcade, the Unchained version, because you pay it and then you go ahead and play it. And I've been playing that game for a while at this point. So, because I have a community that I play with, so I log on, chat with my friends, and we just do the fun things that you do in MMOs.
Fantastic. Okay, last kind of gaming related question, then we'll get into the preneur part, gamerpreneur. But desert island scenario. I put you on an island with one game, a power cable, and Ethernet cable. Which game is it?
Power game. I would have to say Pokemon.
Which one? Like, there's a lot of them.
You know what? That's a good one. I think probably red version, like the original Pokemon.
Okay. Safari Zone will take days to get through, That one, Kangaskhan.
I know, and then if you mess up, then you just start over, and there you go. There's always a new journey you can take, or different routes you can take.
Fantastic. Okay, so what is your professional background? Like, how did you even end up on my show?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, I'm a content marketing specialist, so I have always been in the realm of copywriting, content management. I actually I had the opportunity to be contracted over at EA about 2 years ago. In my journey as a content writer and content specialist, I was actually working on their digital publishing team. So I helped with the website side and publishing content. So I work with the copywriters from the different teams and help publish articles and web content onto the website, specifically for NBA Live. And I also supported Madden 19 was one that I was helping support.
Beautiful. Now, can I pump the brakes on this for a second? What is copywriting?
Copywriting is actually the process of developing the written word. So taking a brand, taking an identity, and converting it into different types of content, whether it's an article, a blog post, whether it's a social media post. We help with taglines. We help with also generating sort of like the verbal voice of a company or a business. That's sort of the aim and the goal of a copywriter, is to make sure and take the vision of a company and verbalize it into something that they can connect with the audience.
Okay, beautiful. Now, I'm saying this facetiously because I'm right here with you. But how important is the written word? Everything's video nowadays.
It's critical. And the thing is, it helps define even what's visually presented, because you have to have both aspects, both the visual and the written, so that way they can work cohesively together and give the right messaging across. As humans, as people, your storytelling, we talk and we write and we express ourselves. And again, writing and that expression of self through the words, helps give context to a lot of the information that we're trying to present visually. So you have to have both of them in tandem.
I love it. So I'm sitting here and, I try to make my show about my audience. What advice can I get from my guests for my audience so that they can follow in their footsteps if possible? How do you learn copywriting? Can just any Joe off the street just start typing? How does that work?
It's a little bit of an art and a science. That's how I see it. Over the period of time that I've learned about how to do proper copywriting, in the sense of the experience that you generate, you have to do a lot of reading. You have to do a lot of research. Those are two core components when it comes to writing content, because again, you have to understand the information in order to be able to present it and connect with somebody else. So it's a lot of practice, it's a lot of testing and seeing, and you have to read and write for you to develop those skills. And a lot of the information that you can get, obviously, is the feedback too. You have to be receptive to feedback, because that's how you're going to continue growing as a copywriter and as a writer overall. So having an understanding of communication, people who are good at communicating, sometimes it's a little bit easier for them because they understand the small little layers when it comes to writing words, but it takes a lot of practice. And like I said, do a lot of reading, a lot of research, and sometimes just doing it, and seeing what works and what doesn't work.
Okay. And copywriting is important everywhere. Say I'm a streamer or an esports team, do they care about copywriting as well?
They do. It's different types of copywriting, because again, copywriting overall, there's so many different channels that you can communicate with. So each channel is very unique in what kind of information you're trying to share with your viewers or your audience. So, you know, the example, like for example, a Twitch channel, you know, when you're communicating, you're copywriting, how you create the channel, right? So the title of your channel, whenever you're uploading videos, the captions you put on your videos, that's a layer of copywriting there, you know. So how are you presenting your vision, your person as an individual or as part of a brand if you want to branch out and create teams or vice versa. Like it's very critical on that side too. And that way, again, your viewers, when they go on to it, they, as soon as they read something, like, I know who that is. I can tell from who wrote that, that's this person, you know.
Yeah, I have one more question. Like, I know the answer to this, having been an attorney, and I know that you know the answer, but there's somebody out there listening to this show who's going, copywriting, isn't that like when I use somebody else's music that like they made and I'm not allowed to?
No, it's a little, definitely a little bit different. You know, it's copywriting obviously is when you have a phrase or catchphrase and you send it to get it sort of marked as your own. You know, when you copyright a CD or copyright a song or a name, say for example, because you know there's some artists that say, hey, my name, you can't use it anywhere else. It's because they're claiming that as their own. So it's not necessarily copywriting overall as the process of writing, you know, a process of writing copy.
Okay. So what she's saying is I can copyright my copywriting.
Essentially you can. If you can prove that that is a unique word and has a unique purpose and it's going to be used as an identifier for something else, you can copyright pretty much anything, you know, essentially.
Beautiful. I appreciate you going through all that with me. So,
oh, of course.
Can you tell me what you're doing right now?
So right now what I'm doing is I am working alongside the Fat Merchant marketing team. Like I mentioned before, with content strategy and writing and presenting products. Right now, the company does a lot of payment technology-oriented products. So we have software solutions for multiple businesses, especially small and medium-sized businesses, to help them with processing payments. So kind of like, I know it doesn't always sound like the most attractive kind of industry, you know, but what's fascinating is every company, even, you know, Twitch streamers or even like gaming companies, how you gather income, how do you charge people for to either watch you, charge people for your games, you know, sort of that layer. So I help the company sort of express that to the audience, you know. So like I said, blog posts before. So say we have a product release that goes out, we explain it, say, okay, well, this product goes out, or this, you know, putting into context for games, this game goes out. I write up an article saying, well, what is this game? And I go into the details and the features and the capabilities of the games, you know, and I help manage that portion as well as the social media side and all the other elements there too.
Fantastic. So how did you end up into this industry of marketing and copywriting and sales?
Yeah, I've always loved writing. It's interesting because like when I was first starting off in the writing world, I'm a reader, a voracious reader. I love books. I love storytelling. It's something that I'm very, very passionate about because I believe that the power of words in connecting people and connecting audiences together. And I actually went to school for creative writing. So my intent was not necessarily to be in marketing, right? My intent was to go out in the world and write a book and have it automatically sell because I am such an amazing writer, which, you know, when you go to school, they teach you that you're not as amazing as you think when you're in high school. But over time, as I started working in different industries, because again, I've worked at Universal as well, so I've been in entertainment, but I've always found a way to use my skills in writing. So I would write for newsletters, or I would come up with like training manuals, because again, when you like to write stuff like I do, like I tend to find ways and to get into the industry. And then over time, I started working at a marketing company. So I eventually transitioned into marketing and started off writing newsletters. So I have business partners for the company that I would take control of their newsletters, you know, and I started from there, just writing newsletters. And then I went from newsletters over to writing manuals and then writing proposals and then vice versa. And the experience just grew from there.
So lots of writing.
Lots and lots of writing. Yeah. Yeah. When you love writing, you don't mind it as much.
Okay. So, what makes you unique? Like, what unique skills do you have that someone else may need in order to be able to follow in your footsteps?
I love technology, which is, as a creative individual, technology and like sort of creativity and science, sometimes some people don't think that they can work very, very well together. And then most copywriters or most writers, they have a tendency or a belief in themselves that they're unable to understand the technology side. And so what makes me unique is the fact that I've learned a lot about technology. I think part of the reason is because I do enjoy video games, right? And video games has an element of technology to it because you have to learn. If you want to have a PC, you have to learn how to build a PC. You know, how do you do that? You get manuals, you get tinker, you know, vice versa. So I was able to merge that understanding of how the importance of technology and sort of like the innovations that continue through technology into my passion for writing. So I mix the two together, you know, and I kind of, again, try to find the science in writing.
Okay, beautiful. Now, like, what kinds of resources do you use to develop your skill? Is it really just you sat in front of a computer or a notepad and you just wrote for years and years until you got good? Or how did you learn this?
Yeah, it's a lot of mentorship, believe it or not. What I tend to do is I tend to reach out to people who know more than me. Because as you know, there's always somebody who has an understanding of something that you may have a gap in or you may want to learn. So I did a lot of mentorships, and a lot of networking. And I'm always asking questions, right? And putting myself in positions where, like, even if I don't know how to do this proposal, for example, like writing proposals, what happened was I looked at, there was a need to somebody to say, hey, I need somebody to help me write this. I was like, well, I don't know how to do that, but I will learn. So they would give me the task, give me the project, and I would just figure it out, as well as ask questions. Questions was like the biggest way for me to learn, was be able to put myself in a position where I'm always constantly learning. And again, asking questions of people who had the understanding, because when they were able to teach it to me, that means that I gained the understanding as well, which made me a much better writer when I was actually able to, again, teach somebody else. That, you know, if you're able to teach somebody, then that means you kind of understood it enough to a point.
Okay. Now, I fully believe in mentors. I'm a coach myself, so I'm right there. But what would you say to those people who like feel like it's a weakness to have to ask for help like that?
It's difficult, but it's sort of remembering that you're not asking for help because there's a failure in yourself, right? You're asking for that in order for you to continue learning. And everybody asks questions, and it's perfectly okay. And there is no issues at all ever to ask questions. And that's the way that we learn. Even as kids, you know, and having kids, they ask 5 billion questions, and you don't think anything of it, because again, you know that they're in the process of learning. And it's just, you know, even if you're worried, even if you're concerned, even if you feel a little bit of pressure of, oh man, like I should know this, it's okay to ask. And if sometimes if you want to, go to somebody that you know you can trust, or even go to Reddit's, again, sometimes it's anonymous, right? Reddit, you can ask questions on Reddit. You know, you can ask questions in other places. Maybe you're not as comfortable. Find a way that's comfortable to ask, and then you should be able to go ahead and do it. And it's just finding ways that work for themselves and work for you, essentially, you know, in order for you to put yourself in a position where you can lead yourself to those success.
Fantastic. Okay, now, so how long have you been doing this then?
This as in marketing, or
marketing generally? Yeah.
Officially, in an official professional capacity, about 6+ years. Unofficially, since I've always been writing since like college, and even before that, like it could be easily like 10 years.
Okay, so let's say 6 years. You can go back in time. You could talk to little Jesenia, and you go, little Jesenia, this is what you need to know in order to do just so much better than you're currently, you know, at. What would you say?
Oh man, just go for it.
Well, what does that mean?
And yeah.
Nike, just do it.
Yeah,
great copywriting.
Yeah, no, it's the sometimes it's like, it kind of goes back to your question of like, you know, people who are worried about asking the questions, right? Because the younger Jesenia, or any new person who's learning the ropes for writing, or even the other capacities, there's always this worry that, you know, you're not good enough. And it's also, for me, it's like, it's perfectly okay, right? Just go ahead and ask. Be fearless in your questions. Be fearless in your attempts to learn what you want to learn. And even if it doesn't lead you to the right direction, or it might not later on down the road, it teaches you something along the way. You know, every lesson is worth having, regardless of how you learn it, because you learn one way, and you learn, it's like kind of Thomas Edison, that whole concept of like, you know, you found that one way that worked versus the 5,000 things that, you know, didn't work, instead of saying, oh, I failed 1,000 times. It's kind of sort of that, like I would have told myself, or told the younger person that, you know, that's how you learn, and that's how you adapt and grow. And time, it's a, you know, there's plenty of time. There's so much stuff you can learn. You know, it's just the tip of the ball, or the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, wonderful. Now, say that you have someone come to you and they've just graduated high school, they're looking at college, or they're looking to go straight into the field of marketing. Someone's going to hire them. Which would you say they do?
Marketing, or which was the other one?
Say some company is looking to hire them as a social media manager to work up to some sort of marketing manager.
Yeah. That's a really good question. I think a lot of it has to do with, you can do the general marketing position, because I know there are marketing degrees, but I would say always take writing courses for sure, like add on, because you can always take additional classes to support whatever the main degree field is. But I would say just pick the field. You could pick a social media field, you could pick a marketing field, and as you go through that field, do the internships, right? Because the internships help support and get you that experience, and the real life experience on how you can apply the knowledge that you're learning in school in real time with what the business world is looking at. And that internship will give you and build that experience on top of that. And then you'll be able to see what you kind of like and kind of don't like in the field, in the industry, you know?
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So I don't get to talk to marketers often. I love talking to marketers. So we have the big dogs on campus, which are Facebook and Google.
Correct.
What's happening in the next 5 years? Where do I need to be looking?
Right now, video is big. We've already seen this, you know, if you do research, video is a very, very big field. Obviously, depending on the business that you're in, different channels have different opportunities for different types of businesses. I know Instagram is huge right now. From what I have seen personally, I know Instagram, because it incorporates a lot of the video aspects, the single images, and it's a simplified experience when it comes to social media versus like Facebook. And because Facebook has a whole lot of information being thrown at you. So for me, what I'm perceiving, any channels that simplifies that visual experience for somebody is where things are moving towards. And again, video, the incorporation of movement, video, small snippets. So after Instagram, I know LinkedIn is big too, at least in the professional world for businesses, simply because again, the approach is very different for LinkedIn, because it's more of a professional things. So any student or any industry, or even any like Twitch or anybody who's not on LinkedIn, you kind of need to be on there, because from a business to business perspective. TikTok is huge right now. TikTok is everywhere.
How do I grow my following? I tell dad jokes. How do I make it better?
Yeah, how do you make it better? Know who you're talking to. And the way you do that is the science side's coming out, data. You have to look at the insights, right? The data tells you exactly what people are liking and what they're not liking, and what they're talking to you through, like their likes, and not just their likes, but the comments, you know? That's the only way for you to be able to really know what people are really engaging with when it comes to you. So I haven't ventured to the TikTok world yet. I'm kind of like straying away, giving it a little time. Although I know Gary Vee is saying like, you need to be on this like yesterday. But that's sort of, again, that trend, I'm seeing that a lot now. And again, if it's not TikTok, it's going to be another one that's coming in too. But I know video and short snippets and different channels that offer those little short experiences is very, very big. Snapchat too. but I think TikTok is like a little bit more hyped right now versus Snapchat. Snapchat used to be as hyped.
Yeah, no one talks about Snapchat anymore.
No, the concept is similar. If you really look across the different social channels, there's a lot of similarities between all of them, but it's just angled differently. And it's also, again, focusing on different types of age groups and different audiences. So what some industry leaders say is like, follow the millennials, follow the new generation, because the new generation is the one that's dictating what the future is going to look like right now, because they're the ones who are growing up with these new platforms, and they're the ones who are going to steer those experiences and those angles.
Fantastic. Okay. Can we talk about you for a second? Like, this is the point of the show. I've had you tell me all about the wonderful things you've done, all the incredible knowledge that you have, how to help people. I'd like to pull back and ask you, if I can, what is something that you have failed at? Because I think we learn the most from our failures more than we learn from our successes.
What have I failed at? I think one of the challenges that I had that I failed at was putting myself in roles that I did not enjoy and working on those roles at the sacrifice of myself. What I mean when you have like a job that you say, hey, I love this job, but you like the job because of the people, but you don't like the job because of what it is that you're doing is something that you really care about. Yes, it was a learning experience, but there's so much growth that could have happened on the actual passion. Again, the writing, pursuing the writing, because the first 2 or 3 years after college, I didn't do writing. Like I said, I was at Universal working at Harry Potter. So I was with the Honeydukes. That's what I did. I loved it, but it wasn't writing. I find ways to do it, but I wasn't writing. And then after that, I was a leasing consultant because it was an opportunity that presented itself to me. So I was like, oh, this sounds like a nice, pay was good compared to where I was working before. So I took it, but it wasn't what I was really passionate about. It wasn't what I really, really cared about, but I was going to stick through it regardless until, somebody told me no. And I failed to myself. I failed in that. I failed in pursuing my own passions at the sacrifice of doing something else, because that's what would have been easier.
All right. Thank you. What is something that you're working to improve on in yourself at the moment?
Public speaking, as you can see. I'm definitely trying to get more visibility and be more active when it comes to doing a lot more public events. I do a lot of stuff voluntarily on the side and taking leadership roles and in managing, community service and different aspects like that. But when it comes to actually putting myself as a professional out on the public space, it's something that I'm currently working towards and working on.
Okay, fantastic. So, okay, back to the marketing. I want to wring any last bits of juice I can out of you. What are your top 3 things someone would need to know in order to market themselves?
Ooh, top 3 things. Top 3 things. First off, a clear vision. Because when you want to market yourself, you have to know exactly who you are and what you're trying to present before you can even present it to anybody. And you have to know that for yourself first and foremost, because if you don't believe in it and you kind of half on it, it's going to be very difficult for you to translate it to anybody else, and nobody else is going to understand it. So once you have a clear vision, then you'll be able to find that overall plan, right? So you have to have the vision. You have to for sure have, I'm not going to say the plan per se, but sort of like the desire to take and create an action out of it. So like the game plan, I would say like a roadmap. Let's use that word, like a roadmap. You have to have a roadmap. It doesn't have to be a perfect roadmap. That's perfectly fine. Things evolve and change constantly, but you have to, again, know what you're wanting to do to execute. And then you also have to make sure that you have sort of, I would say collect the tools, but trying to figure out what's the best way to put it. I guess a toolkit.
Okay. What kind of toolkit?
So a toolkit would be knowing the resources that you have available that you can tap into in order for you to execute on that roadmap. So the toolkit can include sort of like your basic website. Because honestly, you need a website. You can do anything and everything, but as soon as you have a website, like that website where you can lead everybody towards, you can build from that. You have to have a site, like a core site that people can venture towards. That's like that first level, first layer. You know, some people use Facebook pages as like their site. Some people use a regular website, you know, normal. Some people, again, you can use Twitch. Just the concept of a single site, a single area that you can aggregate and collect people towards. And that you can execute your roadmap towards, or you can, again, place your vision there publicly, something physical that you can just like put it there and then it's out in the world. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Fantastic. Those seem all very top level things. It requires you to sit down and think a lot rather than actually do anything, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. How important is thinking?
It's critical. It's critical. You know, there is such thing as overthinking. Right? I do want to say that, you know, thinking is important, but it's also, don't stop yourself from executing just because you're thinking too much about it. You know, you can think as you do. There's, you know, so the first version of the site doesn't have to be perfect. The first roadmap doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to get everything not in the row is perfectly okay. Mistakes are going to happen. You know, you're going to be this way and that way. That's perfectly okay. That's how you learn. But you still have to continue thinking things through and think strategically about things, you know, and just taking information as you learn it and applying it as you continue learning and continue executing that roadmap, you know. So always thinking, constantly thinking and learning.
That's great. I appreciate that, because one of my catchphrases here on the show is done, not pretty. Just focus on getting it done and then worry about pretty later.
Yeah, and it takes a lot to learn that, though. You know, in the beginning, when you're a young entrepreneur, or you're a young professional, you think everything has to be perfect. Oh my gosh, because then they're going to get reamed. You know, but over time you realize that it's perfectly fine. You know, that's how you get information and how you collect what works and what doesn't work, because maybe the mistakes you made actually ends up working. How many times do people do things on accident? Whoops, and then they're like, oh snap, that actually worked. Right. For some strange reason. And then you figure out why it worked, you know? So mistakes are actually helpful sometimes. People don't realize that, but yeah.
All right, Jesenia, thank you so much for coming on. How do people find you? Where are you at on social media?
I'm currently on LinkedIn for sure. That's the best way to reach me. I do have an Instagram, but right now it's private, so I don't post too much on there. So LinkedIn and email are the biggest two ways that people would be able to reach out to me. You know, if they have any questions or, you know, want to pick my brain for whatever reason. Those are the biggest two spots.
Wonderful. Well, this has been a fantastic interview. Thank you so much for coming on. Now, is there, you know, before we finish, is there any last points you want to make or any questions I didn't ask you think we still need to cover?
No, I think we covered a lot of information, actually. I do, again, like I said, thank you very much for having me on the show. I really do enjoy these types of conversations. I had a lot of fun talking to you about these topics. You know, I can go on for hours if you give me the chance to. But I know
me too. I rein it in just a little bit.
Yeah, they gotta go eat dinners or, you know, enjoy the rest of their lives outside of being on top of the computer screen. But thank you very, very much.
Jesenia Vargas, thank you so much for coming on. We really do appreciate it.
Of course. Right. You know where to find me. So anything you need.
And on that note, remind everybody, don't be just a gamer, be a gamerpreneur.